I'm just gonna get quotes out of context and just rattle them all off for the first minute.
Is that the bathroom?
Keep your dogs in the bath.
They've went away out and put the dogs in the living room where they sit on the window and fucking bark.
Question is, are they sink dogs or bath dogs?
I think dogs sink, mate.
2 seconds, boys. My dogs are out of sync.
Oh, it's already a fucking riot. I can't wait to edit it.
Dad, I'm recording a YouTube video. I'm going to start a TikTok and pretend to be a lunch lady.
This is Sarah from the pizza stand.
It's Fish Fridays.
The sprinkles make me feel like a wizard.
Have you got asthma? My mum's got asthma. This is an unscripted show, so you can absolutely not try and script it, thanks.
Ryan usually takes me with him when he pisses.
That should be an intro.
Greetings, hello, and welcome back to the Idiots Anonymous podcast. What episode? This is just episode X, because I can't remember where we are anymore. Episode 5 of season 2, yeah, or 15. This week we've got fan favourite guests back on the show with us. We've got Kris and Jack.
Hello.
Oh, thank you very much. Fan singular, obviously.
Yes, exactly. My mum. Well, Rory's mum listens as well. I hope not.
I think that's not canon.
That is not canon, yeah. Let's go around the table, introduce ourselves. So, hello, my name's Ryan, and I'm an idiot.
Hi, Ryan.
This week my story is that I'm an idiot because we went to a... Well, number one, I forgot to come up with a story, but Kris just reminded me of this amazing story when we went to this ceilidh, which is traditional Scottish dancing with kilts and bagpipes and flutes and fiddles and all that. Commando, full Scottish, without the boxers.
Full Scottish breakfast.
Scottish
and sausage and all.
Unbeknownst to us that the chafing would occur. I never understood this was going to be a thing, but wearing a skirt and no underwear is bad for the thighs, and that was reversed pretty quickly. But we did have boxer shorts inside the sporran in the wee bags, so quick fix.
Back up.
It's just, I get full Scotsman, but I've seen it go wrong too many times that I can't partake. It's just chafing. We saw one guy flashes once and it wasn't impressive, and it's just
that's right.
Just like,
Yep.
If you're gonna do it, at least be like, like, you know what I mean?
I like breakdancing. I like doing a coffee grinder, and I do not fancy getting myself tangled up in my own kilt.
I've never seen you do a coffee grinder in my life.
Wait, what are you talking about? What content? What's a coffee grinder?
Like that thing where you go on your hands and then you do this with your legs and they're all like that.
Oh, like breakdancing?
Aye.
Yeah, but he's usually drunk at the time, so he thinks he's spinning, but in reality he's on the ground.
You're just staying still, but your head's spinning.
Right. My name's Rory, and I'm an idiot.
Hi, Rory.
Howdy. So,
You idiot.
you have probably heard the story before, but I've never said it on the podcast. So, in my primary school, it was old. It looked like a prison. It had like cages on the outside, and in the gym hall, they had these massive metal radiators, like huge, and they were split into these big columned sections. And you'd think that's quite dumb to have in a gym hall, and it is. So we were doing touch rugby inside. Don't know why. That's what we were doing. And so I saw the line. I was like, right, I'm gonna score this, and it's gonna be world class, and people are gonna love me. I'm gonna get fame, women, and fortune. So I run and I do it, just a sick knee slide right in the end zone. Scored it, champion. Turn around, straight into the radiator head first.
Oh, mate.
And because the columns were like pointed, it just split my head just right in the front.
Is that what's wrong with you?
Well, yeah, one of the few things. I've had a lot of head injuries. It's just frankly shocking.
That is rough, mate. I'm sorry to hear that.
I feel like I was too old to cry, but I definitely did.
Never too old to cry.
Yeah, that's toxic, mate. That's toxic behaviour.
All right, okay,
Right
sorry.
now.
Jesus. But my gran had to take me to hospital. It was a great time. Got it glued together. Got a wee line there. So if I cut my hair too short, it looks like a wee middle part and like I'm Hitler or something.
Avatar Last Airbender down the fucking forehead.
Hello, my name's Chris, and I'm an idiot.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
I am an idiot this week because it took me to the age of 22, possibly 3, can't remember when it was, to discover that a pancake is called a pancake because it's a cake made in a pan.
Mate, I did not know that.
Wow.
And I feel
Right?
that is okay.
But how meta is that?
I suppose it
I
is.
honestly
meta?
blew my mind when I found that out, and I looked at my
Yeah.
dad and I was like, "Can you believe this?" My dad just
You
looked
never
at me
taught
like
me
I
this.
was the biggest idiot in the world. He's like, "Of course, it's called a pancake."
No, good for
Well-
you for being brave enough to admit that you didn't know that. Because I bet there's a lot
Thanks,
of people
mate.
listening on this going like that. What? Oh my God, so it is?
Aye, but they'd never admit it. Nobody would have the courage. That took balls for me to admit that I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's very big of you, my friend.
Aye.
Do you know what's strange though? Like, I feel like the original pancakes is like the American ones that are quite thick. Because they quite resemble a cake because they're quite thick. But see, in Britain, we make those wee thin pancakes that
Shitey
are just
pancakes.
crepes.
Crepes.
They're crepes, aren't they? But we call them pancakes.
Oh.
We make the
crepe.
small fat ones.
Yeah. Hello, guys. My name is Jack, and I am an idiot.
Hello,
Hi, Jack.
Hello, Jack.
Very articulate.
I am an idiot. Thank you. I'm trying, mate. I'm an idiot this week because I went to a garden party last weekend, and I was walking home, like a 5-minute walk. And I was walking. It was pitch black. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm walking home, and I go, I need a pee. I'm gonna piss into this bun that I know is there, right? I don't know why I didn't just wait a wee bit later on till there wasn't like obstacles in my way, and I just kind of was on my phone. And I wasn't paying attention, and I forgot to stop before I got to the burn, so I walked into the burn rather than standing next to it and peeing into it. And I did something to my ankle, and now my knee's swollen, and now I'm going to the hospital for an MRI and an X-ray because they don't know what
Whoa.
it is.
Whoa.
Jesus.
Bloody hell!
So you fell in the river as a burn a river.
Yeah, pretty much. I burned like a wee bit, but it was like a 5-foot drop or something for the start of it.
Did you have your willy out while you fell?
No, mate, this is the thing, right? I was walking towards the burn with my phone in my hand, going, I'll walk to the edge of the burn so that I can stop at the edge of my burn and pee, and edge of the burn and pee. And then I just felt a falling sensation and realised that the burn is now firmly underneath my right foot.
Yeah. Oh my God, man.
Aye, it was a bit mental. Good laugh, though.
Hope nothing's broken.
Do you
No,
tell the hospital that that's what happened?
100%. Doctor was pissing himself. He was like, that's well funny. Did you get your pee in the end, son? I was like, I know, I firmly pissed myself, so.
Did you?
No, I didn't piss myself.
There could be a detail in that story that the doctor's like, "Oh my God, that's going to lead to this really rare African condition."
Aye.
Well, because he fell in a burn.
You
Why
don't
is it
know.
African?
Why is it African?
I mean, I'm going by the state of the burn in my village, and my village's burn could have been the source of coronavirus, no joke.
But that's from China.
it's from Genesis.
I know.
Mate, you're digging yourself into a burn here.
Oh, no.
I don't know if I should edit that out, but I really don't want to.
Do what you've got, mate.
Continue, Ryan, get us out of this.
Right, moving on.
Aye. Yes.
This week, we've brought the boys on because this is going to be a load of nonsense. Well, not really. Not really. Basically, we've got this this topic for you where we've each brought a fantastic innovation, and it's either current or very recent or it's coming up in the future. And we have each picked the one thing that we think is going to essentially change the world. And it's based on science, based on real facts. So what we're going to do is we're going to go round the table, the virtual table, one by one, and we're going to sort of present our sort of concept and idea. And this is like real technology, real breakthroughs that's happening at this moment. And we'll have a discussion after the pitch. And then the other 3 people will rate it. And Rory, do we know what the rating criteria were?
We did a similar episode where we rated stuff. So just in your head when you're thinking about it, think about how it's gonna, like what kind of impact it's gonna have. Like the level of impact, is it gonna really change the world?
Mm-hmm.
How innovative is it?
Yeah.
And thirdly, how accessible is it? Those are like the 3.
Can I note them down? Say that. Aye, say that again.
Yeah.
We've got impact on the world. We've got how innovative it is, and also how accessible it will be.
And you just group those together and then out of 10, roughly. So think of those, get a rating out of 10.
Yeah.
We should also say that we
Yep.
split it up a little bit evenly. So we're each given a category
Yes,
so that we didn't all look
exactly.
up the same thing. So before we tell you what our product is, we'll tell you what category it was. And then just remember that because you can't directly compare two things, completely different categories.
Agreed.
So that everything's cool in its own right.
I was just enjoying in Ryan's intro the emphasis to it's based on science as opposed to like one of us was going to come to the new technologies podcast and go, guys, dragons.
This week on New Technologies, voodoo dolls.
How do they work and why?
That's funny.
Yeah, I was sort of just winging it there. I was coming up with all the words on the fly. I didn't write anything.
Mm.
So, yeah, does anyone feel confident enough to start us off and set the tone?
I will start us off. I will set
brilliant.
the zone. Set the zone. I'll just.
Set the tone.
I'll go with him.
It's always that one guy in class, isn't there? I'll go first.
Yeah, wipe. Right, so my category was leisure. I thought that was quite
Leisure.
broad. So I was thinking about all the different things that it could revolve around, and then I thought I'm just going to go for something that's really, really broad that could fit into most leisure categories, right? So we're going to go for VR/VI technology. Okay, so we've
Okay.
heard of VR before, virtual reality.
We've covered it on this show.
I know that, which is why I took a wee sidestep to VI. Thought it would tie in nicely, though, right? So VI is volumetric imaging, and
Ooh.
it is really mental, mate. It is so cool. So physicists at numerous universities are using pretty much the same technique to manipulate, we're talking somewhere in between nanoscopic and microscopic ferrule alloy particles. So it's these tiny,
Ferris, you mean?
well, ferrous. Cheers. They're raging. They are like woofed. Ferris.
They're not raccoons.
I got
Ferris.
rabies for my fucking car wheel the other day.
Right.
Showing your engineering right there.
So volumetric imaging, right? Physicists have been able to manipulate microscopic ferrous alloy particles with an electromagnetic field, right? So these tiny, tiny little particles are basically just being manipulated, kind of like a cathode ray tube in a TV. So these metal particles are floating about there, and the other metal that's in them that's not ferrule and or ferrous is usually a reactive metal. So magnesium, potassium, calcium, things that kind of react to exothermically give off like a lot of light. So what they do is they pulse it with a really high frequency so that these reactive metals glow and they can control where the particles go in. And it's kind of like at bonfire night, if you've got a sparkler and you're waving it about the air, you can make like shapes.
Mhm.
So they're moving these particles about the air like hundreds of times a second to make a path, and it follows the exact same path. And when you turn the lights off, it looks like a wireframe shape is like floating in front of you. And it's better than holograms because holograms are static. So if I were to put a hologram here, we would all see it. If we were all looking from different angles, we would all see the same thing. Whereas these things are like, it's basically holograms, but 3D, and they're
Oh,
floating.
I see what you're
Right,
saying.
okay.
Right.
Aye, I don't know if that was well
Yes.
explained enough.
We're following. We're following.
Okay.
We're following.
So,
Cool.
so I'm imagining like a device that levitates particles in such a specific way that it forms a 3D image in the world.
Pretty much.
Well,
Yeah,
And on top of it.
that's exactly it.
Right, okay. And you could like manipulate them so it's like a hologram, just being like,
That's exactly it. That's all.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are our only hope.
That is exactly it. So it's a hologram that is 3D that you can wave your hand through and nothing happens. It's literally like we've basically started to make holograms, and they're doing these and
That's
they work,
very cool.
and like you can totally interact with them and stuff like that. And the cool thing about it is as well is that the panel it's like a base basically
Mhm.
that manipulates these wee particles, right? That causes them to move in the way that they do to create the path that makes the shape. It's so light, it's like a ceramic plate. You can just pick it up and it's so light, and you can just manipulate these things and they just float. And because it's magnets, obviously, you can tip it upside down and nothing's affected. And it's so,
Oh,
that's
so
cool.
cool. So
Can't
holograms.
wait to have Zoom calls like that.
Well, that's exactly it. These guys at one university are trying to hook it up to HDMI so that you can
Oh,
exactly. So
No.
that you can basically, so they've already done it with one 3D movie. I can't remember what it was. It was a pure weird one. I think they were like, I don't know. Anyway, but they've done it with a 3D movie and they've managed to like
Imagine
make.
Avatar, but as a hologram.
Aye,
Oh,
it is
And
so cool.
like things actually come towards you in 3D space.
Totally.
that's what they're waiting for with Avatar 2. They're waiting for holograms.
The only
Does it
problem
have
is,
colours?
yes, it has colours. I mean, the colour is dependent on the metal alloy and the mixture of the reactive metals. So you're only really you're limited to like basically all the colours that fireworks are, because that's what causes fireworks to
Oh,
light
right,
up.
okay.
Has, like
Yeah.
whatever metals in it. Or not necessarily metals, reactive elements. So calcium, potassium, things like that.
But
Uh-huh.
I'd continue on that, and that surely there's a way to develop having the hologram and then having light beams under it to colour each of the different things
Very
individually.
Very
Possibly.
potentially.
That'd be very accurate.
Aye,
Yeah, super accurate.
I mean, tellies are pretty accurate. Have you seen what tellies are like these days?
that's
Have you seen
true.
my telly? Tell you, I was watching that Lorax film and the colours were incredible.
Anyway, so that's one component of it, right? The next component of it with VR VI are haptic suits. I don't know if you've heard of these.
yes.
Yeah.
No.
Right, cool. So basically, they are like a 2-layered morph suit, and they've got tiny little squares of two metals that when you put an electric current through them, it creates like a wee vibration. But you've got like probably about 10,000 of these across the whole suit, right? And it feels a bit like chain link or chain mail. And basically, if you interact with something in the virtual world, whether this be through a VR headset or through a VI hologram, which is this thing I've just explained, you can touch it and it feels like you're touching it because of the vibrations.
Whoa.
Yeah. Have you seen Ready Player One? We've referenced it before.
I have not.
When they're in there's this virtual space, they can wear suits, and essentially it's so they can feel what's happening.
Right, okay.
So if you've seen that film, roughly what you see in that is what Jack's talking about.
Is a reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a reality.
And I can't remember which university now. It was in America, I know that for sure. And they have just figured out a way through, like, I think a similar department was doing research in Parkinson's and trying to limit tremors. So it basically causes intermittent spasms
I saw this.
in your hand to kind of limit your muscles. So as well as this haptic feeling of you touching something, you can put like kind of muscle I don't know, like kind of electrodes basically that cause your muscle to spasm and seize. So when you feel like you're touching something, the suit said, right, your hand shouldn't be able to move anymore now because basically, for example, if you're picking up a glass and your hand is making a circle that is the diameter of the glass, then your hand can't close anymore. So it feels like no matter how hard you squeeze, you can't squeeze anymore because you're holding the glass.
That's so strange.
Aye.
That's
so
wild.
I just thought, see, for gaming, imagine playing a first-person shooter in this holographic reality whereby you pick up these things and you feel the weight of a gun. If it's a sniper, you feel it against your chest. You feel the resistance of the trigger. You could feel the recoil of a gun if you shoot it.
Aye, what about when you get shot?
Did
Like,
Aye.
A&E departments A&E departments around the country are just booming with folk with internal bleeding for this.
No, mate, holographic A&E departments.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
You go to Wishaw A&E, but in hologram.
It really speaks to how malicious I am that when you said, "Oh, what if you get shot?" my brain went, "Yeah, but what if I shoot someone else?" That's funny.
That's it though. Like,
Jack, did you see that haptic suit, like the use for it in cerebral palsy?
yes, I did.
So what they do is they measure the like how your muscles are spasming if you have cerebral palsy or like that type of like a similar type of disease, and they invert it and stimulate in the opposite direction so that it completely negates any form of like tremors.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's like noise cancelling technology. Same
Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah.
That's
And one
wild.
other thing
Wild.
that this technology is able to do, which is kind of, I think, going into somebody else's territory, but you could have taxi drivers that could work for home, and you could just like be in a holographic world driving a taxi at the other side of the globe, and you could like
Why?
feel everything in your suit and all that. And you get in a car crash and you're like,
Well-
wow, I was really sore.
What?
But you're fine.
Of all the jobs to pick, that's pretty wild. Surely self-driving cars would be the answer to that, not a haptic suit while you're sitting at your desk.
Imagine your Uber drivers just sitting in one of the like cockpits that F1 drivers practicing.
That'd be amazing.
Better not be vomiting back there.
Mary, put the kettle on.
Busy the night.
You going out? Aye, enjoying your night.
Time you finish, Carl. I never finish.
I know. No, but you'll just be sitting in the house, right? What time do you finish? I'm fucking crashing this thing right now.
Crashing this thing. Yeah, exactly. No repercussions.
Imagine with a taxi driver sitting in a different country driving you about.
That's
and
what I'm
they're giving
saying, mate.
racist opinions about their country to you and your country.
It's
I'd be
honestly
wild,
about time. I
Wow.
think white people deserve it.
Right, let's do scores then.
Yeah, so your overall pitch of technology is super realistic, holographic, VR, haptic feedback technology.
Aye.
Mad.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'm giving that a 9.
Oh,
I love that stuff. Like, it's just class.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, it's like, it's probably only about 20, 30 years away before we're doing that.
Not even that far. Like,
possibly to that degree where it's massively accessible.
Aye. To
right,
the point where like
accessibility of
our
it.
Waynes are like, Dad, can I get the Visual Station 5? And we'll be like, oh, it looks the same as the Visual Station 4. What's the difference?
But even quicker than that, I can picture that like in R&D offices soon, where like if you've got multinational offices and you all need to look at the same part, if you had a CAD model that each department can just put on a hologram and have it instantly 3D, like to scale in front of you.
Aye. And you put gloves on and you know what it feels like?
That would be mental.
Mm.
That would be pretty mad, actually.
I would love that.
I'm going high, but I'm not going as high as Ryan because accessibility was a factor. We were and we talked about this when we did our VR episode that it takes a while for the general public to be able to get it. So I'm going to go for 7.
Cool.
Very cool. It's just I'm going to be old and poor by the time it comes out. I don't think I'll be able to do it.
By the time it comes out, I'll be too old to understand technology and I will not be happy with it.
That's it, son. Show me your X station. Show me it. Show me it, son.
Sounds about right, honestly.
Back in my day, you had a controller.
You pulled the trigger on the control and you heard a rata from the wee rumble pack. That was haptics in my day.
Rumble pack.
I think I'm going to go for an 8. I'm going to go middle of the road. I'm going to sit firmly on the fence. Pretty much for the same reasons as Rory, but not as low as him, because I think impact, I think is big. I think for training things and, like I've just said, innovation, I think that could have a lot, not just in the entertainment industry. I know Jack's topic was leisure, but like I think that could have a lot of really beneficial applications.
100%,
And it's definitely innovative. It's cool as hell. If it came from Star Wars, it's innovative. And accessible would really be the only downside from it. Same as Rory, I think it's going to be hella expensive. Like games consoles and entertainment systems already are expensive. Like going to that level is just going to be astronomical.
Mm.
But as the tech gets more readily available, it gets cheaper.
Aye.
Just such is life.
Yeah.
What was that? A 7, 8, 9?
Mm-hmm.
I will take
My
24
hood's
out
good,
of 30.
baby.
Lovely.
It's a very respectable score. Who is going to step up to the plate and beat it?
The ceramic plate that projects holograms, I'd like to remind you all.
True.
Right, guys, I've got a whomper for you. Woohoo! Welcome to the silly zone, because this is about to blow your face off. Mine is not that far-fetched, but wait till I tell you some stuff that's going to absolutely send you into the twilight zone.
I can't wait.
5G, but the most amazing uses for it that I had no idea about until researching it, right? So, firstly, some background on 5G compared to 4G, right?
Mhm.
So, 5G is getting rolled out at the moment, and I've sort of been like, oh yeah, like all these new handsets are getting released with 5G capabilities. I'm like, I don't need that. Like, I'm happy with the speed of 4G on my phone. Like, I can load web pages, watch videos. Like, literally, I'm not going to watch videos any faster. Like, they don't buffer, you know? So 4G's latency is about 200 milliseconds and 5G's latency is about 1 millisecond.
That's mad.
Yeah. So this like latency being the time between cause and effect. So essentially clicking a button on your phone and the response being shown back up on your screen. Do you know what I mean? So going to the server, being processed and coming back and having an effect on you. Another thing is wave spectrum. So have you ever been at a festival and your 4G doesn't work? because there's too many people
Yes.
like around your location or in the
Yeah,
city
yeah.
centre or something.
Aye.
Yeah, so 4G's capacity to function properly is about 4,000 devices per kilometre squared.
Right.
Square kilometre. Whereas
Yep.
5G is 1 million devices
Whoa.
per square kilometre. Yeah,
Per kilometre square. Bloody hell.
yeah. 4G's top speed in an area of fantastic coverage is 100 megabytes a second.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time, you're not going to get that, but that's like what its capacity is. 5G is 10 gigabytes per second.
What?
So it's going to be faster than most cable, because what is it not a gig internet Google's trying to roll out, or has been trying for the past 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, I mean they have it released. Like Virgin have
Yeah, but
10
all-
gigabytes per second.
they have to
fiber optic.
They have to upgrade the cables, so not everyone has it. You
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
run a gig through the cables that exist, so they have to upgrade the cables. Then you get a gig, but 5G is going to be faster. So what's the point?
Exactly, that's exactly it. So it'll also enable something called network slicing, which we haven't seen before on networking or mobile networks, which means basically that the device will identify itself as being like number one, high bandwidth priority, like computers and phones,
Mhm.
or number two, high reliability and low latency, like self-driving cars, or low energy, like connected Internet of Things devices in your home,
Mhm.
like your Alexa,
Ooh.
or like IoT light switches, things like that.
Mhm.
And so this allows the network to be better optimized and run more smoothly, because at the moment, like everything that's 4G enabled runs on the same. It just runs on 4G basically,
Wow.
right? But if it's 5G enabled, it gets to choose its priority, its network slice, which means that it's much more optimized. So by 2024, 40% of the world is going to be covered in 5G, and that's been going on for a while now. The installation of it since, well, I don't know since when.
2019, I guess, is when I started hearing about it.
Yeah. But the thing I really want to talk about, one of the implications of the rollout of 5G, is something that's been around since 2009, and that's the development of self-driving cars.
Yes.
So typically they're fitted with, like at the moment, they're fitted with an array of sensors. So you've got LiDAR sensors and things like that that look around in real time, and they make decisions. So they recognize bikes, other cars, pedestrians, pavements, road markings, traffic lights, all that stuff. And they cross-reference it with something like Google Maps to navigate.
Mhm.
And so that's fine, but all safety critical computation has to be done on board, like image recognition and decision making, because the latency and reliability of 4G isn't good enough to keep people safe.
For sure.
Yeah, so it sees child, it goes, am I allowed to stop? Lag, dead kid.
Exactly. So it has to be all on board, right? So with 5G, computation can be done on a central server at like Google HQ, for example, and get it back to the car and act with a 2 millisecond latency.
Unbelievable.
Oh, I don't know if I like that.
The average human reaction time is between 150 and 300 milliseconds, and that's like on a good day filled with caffeine. So
Oh, that's so cool.
that I think is really amazing. And I think that's the breakthrough. Like once 5G gets rolled out, that's like the bottleneck that self-driving cars and automation really faces right now, is this latency from 4G. So once 5G is a thing, it will just explode, and like all the self-driving technology will really take off. And it's not just remote driving. So this also links up with the concept of spatial computing, which is a fancy term for a more advanced version of Internet of Things, right? So it's like it's a world of things, you know? So an example of this that illustrates what I'm thinking about is the idea of having like a digital twin of a physical space with all the objects connected up to a network. So you've got imagine you've got a CAD model of a room with all of the pieces of furniture in that room, identical to real life, but all of them are connected up to the internet. So whatever you do to the digital model happens in real life. So for example, imagine paramedics are called because an elderly lady is having a heart attack in her flat and her wristwatch detected it, right? So the ambulance would calculate the best route. 5G connected road barriers and bollards would move out of the way themselves to unveil like an emergency vehicle shortcut, while the self-driving cars would clear the road automatically. So the paramedics
and
arrive at
traffic lights and all that would just change so that they don't need to slow down coming up to them. They'll just know that that's cool.
The traffic lights would stop the traffic in advance, you know? And so imagine they arrive at the apartment building reception where all the objects and all the furniture in the reception has moved out of the way to clear a path to the elevator, which has already positioned itself at the first floor so the paramedics can get in immediately.
So amazing.
That is very cool.
The whole time they can monitor the patient's vitals, and this is all possible through the sheer bandwidth and low latency of 5G. It's almost instantaneous, and it's all computed at a central location. So they have like a virtual representation of the city, and this is all relayed back to the devices. And this sort of goes back to like the haptic suit type of thing that Jack was talking about. So imagine this lady, she's in a bad way. She needs to go to the hospital and she needs urgent brain surgery, right? But the closest neurological unit is like 30 miles away. So they take her to a local medical centre. One of the world's top brain surgeons logs on from halfway across the world in New York City. He puts on a VR headset, haptic gloves, and can control the physical robots and devices to perform that surgery with a 2 millisecond latency.
Sick.
Almost like instantaneously.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so that is the type of thing that 5G can do.
That is cool. The thing I liked about the self-driving car thing being on 5G is like, think of the metadata that will be gathered when cars are driving in every single decision-making process. Not even every single decision-making process, but every bit of like metadata that every self-driving car collects is just going to one server for the AI to be like developed for the better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just I think 5G, we were going to be talking about this in an episode about AI, but I think the possibilities that 5G opens up drives us closer to like the point of having a dangerous AI.
The singularity.
Yeah.
Very scary.
But
cool.
Don't let that affect your scorings of my my proposal.
My biggest concern of it is amazing. Like the potential applications, all that, absolutely outstanding. One is adoption. So like whether people are comfortable with that kind of thing being implemented, because obviously like we know there's all the joking about like 5G gives you cancer, or like it's sort of do with the coronavirus vaccines and Bill Gates wants to control you and all that kind of stuff. There's the carry-on stuff, like that's obviously like an extreme end of the spectrum and everybody's taking the piss out of that. But genuinely, like the people worried about implementing them for a big reason being like the one I'm immediately thinking of when I said, I don't know if I like that, when you said about the self-driving cars all relating to the single server. That's great when it works. What happens if something happens to that server? That server is a massive terrorist point. It's a massive... It needs to be as secure as all hell, and it needs to be maintained as best as possible, because if one blip, like I think a couple of weeks back, one of Facebook's servers went down, you would have thought half the west of Scotland had just lost the ability to breathe the way they were all going on. Like, my God, Facebook's playing up. Can you get on your Facebook? I can't message folk. Like,
aye.
When something goes down, like, what are the fail-safes they need to put in place to make sure that when a doctor's in surgery, or like, it's alright if a car's turning a corner like quietly into the street. What if a car's going at 80 mile an hour, or 70 because it needs to stick to the speed limit, but like 70 mile an hour down the motorway, and then just everything cuts out and it can't make decisions anymore?
Well, what you said about speed limits there, right, is like, I mean, obviously to reference a dystopian sci-fi movie, right? See in iRobot, when all the Audi TTs, right, are doing like 400 on the motorway, and they're all self-driving, obviously, and Will Smith climbs into the front seat, and she's like, you can't actually expect to drive this fast, like, on autopilot. Like, I bet when self-driving cars are a thing after, I don't know, like a couple of 100 year, speed limits will just go up, because robots can't make mistakes.
Are safer.
I think they'll end up having allocated autonomous roads and non-autonomous roads.
Probably right, actually, yeah.
So, like, they'll probably have autonomous highways that will be allowed to go up to those speeds and just physically will not let
that's
manual
a really
cars
good point.
onto them.
Yep.
Yeah, but residential areas, not really.
Or it'll end up like the Hyperloop. There'll be like specific tunnels that only autonomous cars can go and travel in.
I'm thinking with your problem with the central server thing, if latency is so low and connection is so high, then you would have a series of terminals spread across an area, and they all communicate to each other. So if one goes down, the others share the load evenly.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'd probably have like
Yeah.
a network.
Oh, I'm sure there's definitely ways around it. I'm just thinking like that would need to be clearly communicated to people before it's like widespread, like in your daily life.
yeah,
like
yeah.
people would need to have 100% confidence in it. It's a bit like self-driving cars. People need to have the confidence in them before they'll actually let them be adopted.
Yeah, exactly. Right, scores.
Scores at the doors. Right. So I need to specify exactly what it is we're scoring you on. Is it 5G and its capabilities?
Yes.
Okay. Nail that down.
Impact. It's a big one.
So it's a big one.
Innovation.
Depends if they
So
crash.
here's the thing though, right? Innovation. We've had 1G, we've had 2G, we've had 3G, we've had 4G.
How many G's does it take until we reach the end?
I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying like, what about 5X? Do you know what I mean? Make it a bit more exciting.
What does the G stand for? I don't know.
5th generation.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I thought it was
yeah.
to do with the bandwidth. I thought it was like...
It's not gigahertz.
Is it not? I thought it was.
Accessibility, it's like, it is, I mean, obviously one day it's going to be globally accessible, but
Mhm.
I think it's going to it took a long time for 4G. You heard about 4G in like 2002, and then I
That's
got
very true,
4G in 2015.
You get I've had 5G on my phone in London and in Glasgow already.
Have you?
Yeah, I've definitely been rolling about and had 5G pop up on my phone. I've not noticed any difference. Like, a surgeon didn't cure me, but like, I have definitely got 5G.
I'm going to go for 8 is my score.
I was also going to go 8 again.
Ryan, my man, I'm going to give you a 10. A bang up
Oh.
out the park. 10.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. I think the impacts you just listed are amazing. I think innovation is like, listen to all the potential possibilities you've just come up with, and that's the only scratching the surface before we've actually got the technology. And accessible, we've already got, like Rudy or like Jack just said, we had 1G, 2G, 3G, so we already are familiar with these things. The systems are already there, they just need to be upgraded to cope with this new technology. It's absolutely accessible.
Fantastic.
He's posted a 26. A
Oh, baby.
20 unheard of, because this is the second time.
Amazing.
Right, Chris, would you like to round him out, or shall I go next?
I'll go, mate. I'm quite happy to go. That's a nice wee path
Rudy's
into guest
setting
host,
himself up
guest
for a home
host.
run. Rudy's got a belter.
Sure. Let's just say sure.
I don't know. I'm excited to hear your opinions on my one.
Mhm.
So the topic I get given or chose or took was transportation. What's new in transportation? And I kind of batted around with this, and I thought, I'm not going to go plain Jane. I'm not going to go autonomous cars, because that's yesterday's news. They're a thing. And then I thought Concorde, but then I kind of looked into it, and you're like, well, Concorde's been a thing. There's a reason it didn't work. And basically, it's because it was expensive, and you couldn't have a lot of people on them. And I landed it. I thought, do you know what? Let's go completely at the park. Teleportation. Who doesn't want to teleport from one place
I
to
do.
the other?
Tell me you
That's
figured it out, please.
The dream. So that was this was my original thought. I thought, right, teleportation. We don't really know where we're at with teleportation, so I thought, let's go look. Let's go see where the scientists are at with teleportation. How far off are we? Turns out there's people looking into it. It's a thing. People are looking into it. It's not absolute out there. So there's two theories for teleportation typically. One is that you would be physically deconstructed at one place. You'd then be sent from X to Y, and then you would be reconstructed at Y. The other theory is that you would translate a person into physical data, and then you would reconvert that data at the other end back into mass. So it's kind of like a really advanced fax machine.
Right.
So those are the two theories. Either you destroy something at one point and rebuild it at the other, or you scan it in and you recreate it at the other. But you would then probably end up with two.
Okay.
So that's more like cloning, but over a long distance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been proved possible, in principle, by a group of 6 international scientists in 1993.
That seems too early to be legit.
But this is the principle. So they've just sat and worked out, in theory, this could happen. You could scan something in and recreate it somewhere else, and that would be teleportation. If you'd like to go and read into that paper, dear guests of Idiots Anonymous, it's called Teleporting an Unknown Quantum State via Dual Classical and EPR Channels.
Wow.
Some good nighttime reading.
That sounds to me like trying to teleport something of unknown existence to somewhere of unknown destination with an unknown result.
But there are actually advances happening in this. So in China, scientists have managed to, air quotations, teleport photons to a satellite 300 miles away using quantum entanglement.
Okay.
Mhm.
And in layman terms, that's when you get two photons that can exist simultaneously in the same state, even over a vast distance. And if you change the state of one, the other one changes to the same state with no detectable connection between them. So you can have two things at the same state, change one and the other one will change as well.
Right.
And they managed to do that over 300 miles.
Okay. That's
Mad.
So I kind of stopped with teleportation there. It'd be kind of sad to know, because the reason I didn't take it any further in my research was because the article I was reading kind of explained why we've not all heard of it in the news, why it's not a big thing, because we're only just discovering, or the Chinese scientists are only just discovering, how to use this technology with photons. And we then, to make this into like physical mass teleportation, we would then need to upgrade that technology from doing it with photons to atoms, and then onto molecules and cells and so on until you build up an entire human. So a photon is tiny, and to give you a perspective, just to jump from doing this with photons to atoms is absolutely massive. So one atom is 1 nonillion times bigger than one photon. And if, like me, you don't know what a nonillion is, it is times 10 to the power 30 times bigger than what a photon is. And so that's 1,000 billion times bigger than what a photon is. But people still have faith. So a research group at the University of Leicester theorised what the computing power would be to teleport one person from one place to another, like how much computing power you would need.
I'm interested to hear this. It's got to be a lot.
They did this study, so all the cells in the human body equate to 2.6 times 10 to the 42 bits of data, or 260 trillion bits.
Right, okay.
So like an iPhone 12 or something.
And so to transfer that data, if you were to scan a person, have these 260 trillion bits and then move them somewhere, in order to move them, you would require 10 trillion gigawatt hours of power.
What?
You would need to use the entire UK power supply for over 1 million years.
Right, okay.
And time-wise, the time it would take for you to transfer it from your PC to whatever other PC you want to do it to would take 4.8 million years, which is 350,000 times longer than the entire universe has existed. So you would literally be quicker walking from wherever you're wanting to get to wherever you want to go.
So you're sending a copy of yourself, like sticking up the fingers to your mate Jerry, and you're like, Jerry, mate, in 4.7 billion years, you're about to get it, mate. You're about to get it.
You're about to get pranked. The UK just posts on Twitter, like from the United Kingdom Twitter page, just like, just going offline for a bit, guys.
You just end up in the middle of fucking two multiverses, just in the void, just being like, oh no, I am nowhere. For eternity.
The universe has ended and restarted about 4 times.
Did I get the email address wrong, or have I transcended time?
Diagonally.
Diagonally.
All hope is not lost for teleportation. Certainly not with a guy called Dr. Michio Kaku, who is a lecturer in America. Can't remember what university, but he optimistically believes that these numbers aren't far off, and that actually with the rate of technology changing, with things like 5G coming in, that it's not that far off. He reckons that within the decade we'll be able to teleport a molecule, which is a big deal. Big deal. Because that's think of how big the jump from photon to atom was. So molecules, several atoms.
Sure.
Or several million atoms. But he also reckons that not only will we have a molecule within the decade, he reckons that within the century we will be nearing the technology to teleport a human.
No.
He reckons that it's about 100 years off before we would have the kind of technology to be able to do this.
Do you think your brain would be the same though?
And well, so this kind of software or the kind of technique he's thinking of was that second one I spoke about if you were to scan someone in. So he's thinking of like a really advanced MRI.
Okay.
Like massively advanced MRI, and to do with the actual data transfer, so what I was saying about like it taking 4.8 million years, that's over existing like network, like how we currently transfer data, I believe. The way he's suggesting it is that we would instead use X-rays to transfer the data. So basically you would be beamed up to a satellite in X-ray form and beamed back down to something else, or you would be sent to the satellite in X-ray form. And that would be the data transfer, and it would be much faster than the technology we're using just now. So he's very optimistic. He definitely thinks it's not that far off. The other issue we face is if you're going to use that method, you essentially need to 3D print the person at the other end.
Yeah.
So think of like Vision in the Marvel Universe, where he's 3D printed in that big case.
Yeah.
That's the kind of technology you're looking at, and we are leaps and bounds away from that. You're talking about printers that could physically manufacture essentially stem cells, of actually being able to make tissue and cells and the complicated matrix of the human body. But on top of that, you would also be hoping that all the electrodes in your brain would be able to transfer your soul and your thoughts and your memories from one location to another.
Yeah.
Which, to test that out, that would be the safest option of being able to scan someone and then move them. But then you would essentially just be cloning over a long distance. You'd be making two of the same person. The other method would be to essentially vaporise someone and bring them out the other end. But no one would sign up to that.
Even at a simplistic form, right? So for example, see if they did that with like a chicken, for example, even if it was a chicken, right? You are literally, if that works, you are creating life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
there's a lot of scientists who reckon that this just physically isn't possible, because the type of, like the level of scanning you would need to get to is on an atomic level. And when you get to that
Right.
level, like anything you use to try and picture that atom, you're going to then disturb that atom, and it's not going to be the way you read it. If you get what I mean. So like if you use a micro, say, I mean, I'm not this intelligent to understand how you would do this, but say you use an electromagnetic wave to identify that atom, well, that's a radiation affecting the atom, and you're then going to affect its atomic structure and its the electrons and its band levels.
Yeah, because with an MRI, MRIs disturb the cells. It's like magnetic resonance imaging.
Yeah,
So they actually make cells resonate.
Yeah. So based on that, I was like, right, well, teleportation. I also didn't know this was the criteria we're rating these on. So I was like, right, well, that's not accessible just now. That's a lot.
No, it's not.
We don't have 4.8 million years on this podcast to wait and find out if this is going to become a reality. So, but it's not all hope is lost. There are another couple of theories on teleportation. There's the theory of warping space-time, which is the paper folding method of taking point
much
A and
more
point
accessible.
B and bond them together. No, this is not the accessible one, but this is... Oh, you have discussed this, sorry. But yeah, you're basically opening a black hole, and to teleport you from point A to B, you would be stretched as thin as one atom.
Aye.
And then sent to the other end, and God only knows what would happen.
You're dropped in front in that, aren't you?
I am Noodle Boy.
The even more accessible and not too far in the future method of travelling really fast from point A to point B. So if you can't teleport, you just want to get there as fast as you can, is something called the M drive. That's EM drive. It stands for electromagnetic drive, or it's also sometimes known as the radio frequency resonant cavity thruster. But M drive's a wee bit punchier.
I've heard of the second one.
This is something that NASA have been working on, but actually it was first theorised and invented, for want of a better word, by a man called Roger Scheuer in the UK. So basically what this is, it's an electromagnetic propulsion system, and it creates thrust without propellant. So it essentially breaks Newton's third law of motion, in that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So just now when we use spaceships, you're burning fuel and you're exploding it out the back of the engine to force the rocket up. So you're putting two opposing forces. This thing doesn't do that. So basically what it does is it creates an electromagnetic thrust by bouncing microwaves inside like a conical cavity, and that's what creates this thrust. In the really simplest terms of trying to picture this, it's essentially like, imagine you were inside a big box. Somebody trapped you inside a big cardboard box, and you don't know how to get out, but you know if you get like in one direction, you'll get to something that will help you. So basically, if you wanted to move the box from the inside, if you just took a run up to one of the walls and just jumped at it and hit the wall, the box would shift.
Yeah.
It's essentially that in really simple terms, but you're getting microwaves to do this. Microwaves travel at the speed of light. So essentially they're bouncing around this box, and if you direct it in this conical cavity, you can move forward.
So similar to ion engines.
And this came up when I was looking at it. I didn't look into ion engines because...
It's essentially they just ionize atoms and then propel it out, and because that has a mass, then you abide by the equal and opposite reaction, which is, funnily enough, what TIE Fighter stands for in Star Wars is twin ion engine. However, it wouldn't go that quick. Yeah.
No way is that what it stands for.
George Lucas equals Elon Musk? Is that what we're saying, basically?
Yeah.
Don't talk about it. They'll find
us.
us.
Have come from science fiction, like Star Trek.
Ion engines came before.
Yeah, but like think of the amount of like readily accessible things now that originated in science fiction that just seemed so wildly out there at the time that are now just everyday things, like cell phones. Were they not first like shown to the public on Star Trek?
Did you just
Where are you from?
Leave me alone.
Cell phone.
I'm talking about when they were first launched. They were called cell phones,
Just
right?
No, they weren't.
say cell phones.
Don't ever again, all right?
So, basically the exciting thing about this is it doesn't use any mass. Basically the theory is if you're using it this way, that the total momentum, it increases as it moves, giving it exponential acceleration. So essentially you could reach the speed of light or near to the speed of light.
Yeah.
Is what they're theorising, is that you would manage to get up to that kind of speed if you had it in space over a large distance. Because the tests have been doing just now, I'm not going to read out the actual power, like the thrust they managed out of this, because I don't know what to compare it to, so it's kind of pointless. But they've essentially created this tiny thrust. They've experimented with it, and it was a tiny, tiny thrust that really like a gust of air going by could have created. But they then put it inside a vacuum and they experienced the same thrust, which is massive. And this is all very theoretical just now, but they're making leaps and bounds in this. And the significant benefits of it are that it's electrically powered. So if it was being used in space, you can recharge it by solar energy. So it doesn't need to be refueled. It doesn't have any moving parts to malfunction or wear. So it doesn't need any maintenance, or as much maintenance as like a turbine would. And it doesn't have a fuel source to run out of. So you don't need mass, you don't need anything. You just have these same microwaves bouncing about this chamber.
But do you not need some sort of microwave generator?
It's a whole setup. Like there is a whole setup. But yeah, it doesn't need fuel. It needs very little fuel. Basically, it's electrically powered. And it's not that far off. So NASA are heavily investing in this stuff. They're really researching into this. And China have allegedly claimed on their... what do they call their TV?
Television, it's the same thing.
Their state TV. They've claimed on state TV in China that they have one of these, and they're also claiming that they are going to send two up to their space laboratory. That's one of their satellites that goes around Earth, and they're going to test them out there. And they really reckon they're not far off from actually using these as the next generation thrusters for spaceships.
Wow.
Which essentially could mean that we are not far away from the next space race of America, NASA, vs China. And the space race would be from here to Mars or here to Alpha Tauri, because that's the kind of distance where you would really see these things come into effect.
So, for scores, your proposal
is the M drive, not teleportation.
Cool. Glad you spent 9 hours on teleportation.
Yeah, cheers for
I
that.
thought it was really interesting. I wanted to update you on where we're at with teleportation.
Dad's getting cut with the sharpest pair of scissors I've ever seen in my life.
I'm only salty because you keep coming on here and making my week difficult. But very cool M drive.
Yeah, I'm buying into the M drive because that links up with lots of stories of UFOs that I've heard of, like UFOs basically accelerating so fast and being able to go from A to B to a point that we just cannot comprehend at a speed we can't comprehend. So I think if these types of engines are in like prototyping and development stage now, and China says so, then I believe them. So that's an 8 from me.
I might go for a 7 because again, the prospects are really, really cool, but I don't know. I don't see it being as fast as people say it's going to be, kind of thing.
It's protons, bro.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry,
It's-
protons are really
go-
fast. You're right.
I'm going to go for 9. Impact
Oh,
wise,
thanks, mate.
can you imagine what will happen if we are talking about doubling, tripling the speed that we can travel across the universe?
Mm.
Like, what a massive step that is. Also,
Mm-hmm.
if acceleration is exponential, like you say, then we are just going to like keep getting faster and faster and faster.
Not even for like manned travel, like taking us out the equation, just being able to send satellites that far. Like, how much
Totally.
would we just be able to understand the cosmos?
And with 5G connectivity, we're going to see it like instantly like that. Innovation. This microwave engine sounds mental. I want to make one. Accessibility. That's why you get a 9, because it's just not there yet, but it's getting there by the sounds of things. So aye. Boom.
I think that's understatement of the day.
What?
Proton powered microwave engines sending us at exponential travel speeds is, and I quote, just not there yet.
So I think your grand total there was 25. You had what, a 9, an 8, and a 7?
That's 24.
That's 24.
Mhm.
Good maths from me. Good maths from me. So
Right.
you're matching Jack in second place.
Yes, mate.
My job, as usual, to bring it home. So you guys have gone like so far into the future and blowing minds in terms of like what's possible.
Yeah.
Ryan's not. Ryan's
Ryan
going to
went-
happen next week.
Nah, Ryan took 5G and he ramped it up into what it could be, not
Mhm.
necessarily what it is right now.
You on a bit?
Mine, I was a little bit different. So this whole concept for the podcast came up because I saw something really, really cool.
Cool.
And,
A wheel.
And I was like, I want to build a podcast. I'm going to force fit this thing in.
Oh wait, what is your topic, mate?
My topic was medical. So I want to talk to you about heart in a box. So it's all about heart transplants. So heart transplants are one of the most difficult procedures on the planet, both in a surgical sense and a logistical sense. It takes a lot of people working together to get one heart from a body into someone who can use it and make a life with it. So only 4% of all donor hearts, so anyone who's signed up to give their heart away, only 4% are actually gonna be able to be used in a transplant. And from that 4% of donors, only 30% of those actually get from one person to another. So you're talking minuscule numbers of people that need a heart can't get a heart. And one of the big reasons for that is matching. So I can't just give my heart to Kris if Kris needs my heart. It doesn't really work that way. You and me have to be a match. Your body has to accept my heart. And if it doesn't, it's not looking good for you.
You stole my heart years ago, mate.
What does matching depend on? I know it's blood type. Is it also like
So you've got
History of-
all sorts. But
Licorice?
essentially, blood type's a big thing. But it just essentially, I couldn't tell you the exact things. But essentially, the state of your body and the kind of like atmosphere that the organ has to exist in has to be the same in your body as it is in mine.
got you?
Otherwise,
Aorta diameter.
it's not going to be happy. So imagine, Kris, you and I truly are in love, and the universe is correct.
Do you mean imagine?
And the universe is correct, and we are a match.
Mhm.
Then starts the logistical thing. How do I get my heart to your body in time? Because you only have 6 hours from the point I die to give you my heart.
No way.
Damn.
Say your other end of town is a traffic jam, gone, not happening. You're not getting my heart. Sorry, mate. So the way that they do it right now is they take a heart. So they might be that someone's donated it while they're still alive and they can't use it, or they've died recently. What they do is they take that organ and they put it on ice. So they just cool it down, slow the metabolic rate. It can't decay anymore. Going to preserve it as long as we can. But yeah, 6 hour window. Obviously, that doesn't work. It's not the greatest, but there's a new technology. Well, I say new. It's been around for a couple of years, but it's getting better. It's called heart in a box. So the idea is can't fix the matching problem, but they can fix the time problem. So the heart in a box is essentially a series of pumps, heaters, and electrodes that you hook up the donor heart to, and it simulates beating. So rather than a heart lying stagnant and dying, it's receiving the same heat as a body would. It's receiving nutritious blood that gets pumped through it. It's receiving oxygen. So that heart doesn't know it's not inside of a body and continues to beat as a healthy heart would.
And live.
Not only can it do that, is a deceased heart can be revived the same way you would if you did CPR on a person.
No way.
Ooh.
That's amazing.
So if somebody has a heart attack, you can take their heart and bring it back to life.
Yes, you can revive a heart from not only brain death, but cardiac death as well, and revive it and put it into a person. So there's no danger of ice damaging a heart beyond use. It can get kept outside the body for extended periods of time. So there's a little bit of time for you and I to do some testing, Chris, and make sure that you and I are definitely a match and it's going to work.
How much time are we talking? Are we talking like it's extending it to like 24 hours? Or are we talking like you could have a warehouse full of hearts, just be pumping them in boxes, just waiting to like pick one off?
You're talking days.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's still going to degrade. It's not in a body, but it's as close to a body as you can get. So that means we don't have to be in the street next to each other for me to get your heart. What happens is my heart could get taken from my body when I die, put on a plane, and you can fly across the world and give the heart to someone who requires it on the other end. So
Wow.
this is being developed by UCLA, which is the University of California, Los Angeles, and a medical device company called Transmedics. So the first ever surgery with a heart-in-a-box heart was in 2015, and that was by the University of Washington in their medical center. So they gave a heart to a man who was suffering from congestive heart failure, revived him. He's good. He's alive. He's living a life today. Since then, the UK has taken over in terms of how they're going to push this technology. So in 2020, actually, what you would thought was the bleakest of years, UK doctors, specifically Dr. Bateman, a guy in England, he saved 6 children using this technology, and which before they didn't think they could do because the risk was too high taking a heart from a deceased person and putting it in a kid. Didn't think that was necessarily possible. Body's not strong enough to continue that kind of regeneration, but he did it.
Wow.
This tech is crazy. So since heart in a box has been like slowly getting up there, because obviously it's more expensive than a box of ice, but since then in the UK, the transplant activity has doubled every year since this technology's been in.
That's amazing.
So,
And are there applications for, I don't know if this is covered in the research you did, but are there applications for other organs?
yes. Yeah. UCLA and Transmedics also in 2012 did the same thing with lungs.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is sick.
There's obviously specific hospitals are gaining kind of more priority. So Great Ormond Street Hospital is really where Dr. Bateman works, is getting a lot of this.
Ormond Street.
I thought you said Great
Oh.
Almond Street there.
It's the Nat. Great Ormond Street. 2 minutes.
Oh, Ormond.
It is Ormond.
Gary
It is Ormond.
Oldman
Great
Street.
Almond.
Does the street matter?
Great Ormond Street
Does the
Hospital.
street
I do apologize.
matter?
Gosh,
Okay.
for short.
So we were talking previous time. So they're a children's hospital. So previous times for an adult was 3 years to get a heart, and for a child you're talking 6, 8, 9, 10. Keep accelerating that time scale because you got to get a small heart from somewhere. You can't get an adult heart. It doesn't really work that way. They've lowered it to this year to being 243 days. So you can get a new heart to a child on average in that hospital in less than a year.
That's incredible. That's absolutely outstanding.
So if you can get this technology to be the standard, as in there are no ice boxes anywhere, you're talking taking that 4% higher, 50%, possibly higher. Because you can revive a heart, you can take a previously unhealthy heart and pump it through nutrients. You can get a heart from somewhere it needs to be, or somewhere where it was to somewhere it needs to be.
That's groundbreaking because cardiovascular diseases are the biggest killer pretty much everywhere in the world. Like in most countries, it overtakes cancer as the top killer.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Also organs with tumours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it kind of just proves that you can keep organs alive for longer. So imagine a future where you've got a box, like just an array of boxes, right? And you go, right, we need a liver. And someone goes, got a liver, pop it in a box, fly it over to you. There's your liver.
Brilliant.
So you have almost like an Excel spreadsheet where someone goes, I want one of those. And they go, cool, no worries. And send it over.
Tenner.
Even further in the future for that, mate, this is one step closer to Futurama, where you've got, is it Nixon they've got just in the jar with his head? That's feasible now. You can keep an organ alive, you can keep a head alive.
He'd in a box.
You could teleport a heart from Sydney, Australia to London.
You could
You
make.
can.
And you could get it there in 5 seconds with the M drive.
And see if I'm in Dublin, I could pick it up with a haptic glove if I wanted.
Jack, we are literally just about to do the surgery. Stop picking up.
It feels so real, though. It really does. I can feel
Because
it.
it is. Do you know what else is real? This boy that's dying because he's not getting him.
Stop poking the child in the face.
I can really feel it, man.
But I just thought it was cool technology because it's been around since, all the way back to 2012 was the first lung operation. So it's been around, but I've never heard of this until it just
That's so
popped up
cool.
randomly on my old Facebook newsfeed, and I went, that looks cool. What is that?
That's
I'm
incredibly
going
cool,
to
mate.
cast the first vote.
Go.
Give it I'll get a 10.
Oh,
10.
oh,
Oh,
That's getting a 10, mate. It's just banging.
he's going to.
what's Chris going to say? What's he going to say?
I thought it was fabulous. I also give it a 10.
Oh, it's some of the worst part of my life.
I'm really sorry for that, guys.
Sorry,
If you're
everyone.
listening at home or in the car and that affected you, just contact us directly and we will make sure that's okay.
That was my
30.
excellent impression of the Italian judge on Strictly.
I feel like you got the easiest category. You got medical. Oh, by the way, mine was commercial. I forgot to say that before mine.
Oh, I nabbed medical. It was my idea. I was nabbing medical straight off the
Yeah,
bat.
you took medical, so we have to give it. And also, it saves children. It saves lives. It saves kids' lives. And
I
it
did
saves lives.
wonder why
good.
you had nabbed medical when me and Ryan both work in medical devices.
Because-
I did kind of wonder why you had jumped in on that, and I'm like, all right, okay.
I also jumped in as soon as Rudy put it in the chat. I was like, oh, medical, I want medical tips. And then Rudy went, I kind of wanted medical. And I was like, right, you can have it. Your podcast.
It's my
mate."
podcast.
Every week, Ryan and I sit down and I spurt absolute nonsense at Ryan for half an hour until he goes, that's not a bad idea. Here's how it's okay.
Yeah.
And he let this one through. So I was taking it and I was rolling with it.
Sound.
No gatekeeping for Rudy's medical device idea. None of it.
This was just an hour and a half, like a 1 hour, 30-minute exercise to boost Rory's ego.
Do you feel better, Rudy?
Well, mate, a well-deserved 30. That is a
well done,
hell
mate.
of an incredible
Big ups.
innovation.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I just saw it on the internet. But cheers.
I was just on Facebook, but thanks, guys.
I was just scrolling, wasting my time, and it just popped up.
Well done, mate. I think you have contributed to the lives saved of all these kids. So well done, mate.
Yeah,
I
congrats.
don't. I'm going to completely
Bold-ass
disagree with
claim.
that statement, but okay.
And on that massive disappointment,
Oh, don't
good.
Top Gear
We're
us.
done.
Yeah.
I'm going to Top Gear it. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Cheers for
It's been a
listening.
pleasure.
That's-
Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure.
We're saying bye from me.
Bye bye, everyone. Thanks for
Bye.
listening. Cheers, guys.
Cheerio.